Dr. Taemin Park stopped walking and looked at his scanner again. The numbers were wrong. They had to be wrong. He was in the science section of Research Station Omega 7, but his scanner was picking up life signs from an area that was supposed to be empty storage. He touched his communication device. "Commander Kim, can you meet me on level 7? I think I found something strange." Commander Haiwan Kim's voice came back immediately. "On my way, Dr. Park. What kind of strange?" "The kind that might be trouble," Taemin said quietly. The research station was huge, floating in space near a planet that 3 different alien races all wanted to claim. Humans worked here alongside the Saurians, who looked like tall lizards that walked on 2 legs, and the Mentari, who looked like giant insects but were very smart. Everyone was supposed to be working together to study the planet below, but Taemin had always felt like the aliens were hiding things from the human team. Commander Kim arrived quickly, her military boots making sharp sounds on the metal floor. She was shorter than Taemin but much stronger, and she always seemed ready for a fight. "Show me," she said. Taemin pointed his scanner toward a wall that looked normal. "According to this, there are dozens of life forms behind that wall. Small ones, but the station plans say this is just storage space." Kim pulled out her own scanner and frowned. "You're right. These readings show life signs, but they're weak, like something is sleeping." She looked at the wall more carefully. "Doctor, I don't think this is a wall. Look at the edges." Taemin looked closer and saw what Kim had noticed. The edges were too clean, too straight. This wasn't a real wall. It was a fake wall meant to hide something. "Can we get through it?" he asked. Kim smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Doctor, I'm a soldier. Getting through things is what I do." She pulled a small device from her belt and pressed it against the wall. After a few seconds, there was a soft beep. "It's not locked from this side. Someone didn't expect anyone to find this." The fake wall slid open with a soft sound. Behind it was a long, dark room filled with machines and soft blue lights. But what made both humans step back in shock were the dozens of glass containers lined up against the walls. Each container was about the size of a small bed, filled with clear liquid. And floating in each container was a human child. "Oh my God," Kim whispered. "Taemin, are those?" "Children," Taemin finished. His voice was shaking. "They're human children." The children looked like they were sleeping. They had breathing masks over their faces and wires attached to their heads. Some looked as young as 5 years old. Others might have been 12 or 13. All of them were very thin and pale. Taemin moved to the nearest container. Inside was a little girl with black hair. According to the display on the container, her name was listed as Subject 23. Taemin felt sick. "Who did this?" Kim asked. Her voice was getting louder and angrier. "Who took these children? And why are they here?" Before Taemin could answer, they heard footsteps behind them. Both humans turned to see Veltar, the tall Saurian who led the research team. His green scales were darker than usual, which meant he was nervous. "Dr. Park, Commander Kim," Veltar said in his slow, careful way of speaking. "You should not be in this area. This is a restricted zone." "Restricted?" Kim stepped toward the alien, her hand moving toward her weapon. "These are human children. Where did they come from?" Veltar's yellow eyes looked from Kim to Taemin and back again. "Please remain calm. This is a scientific study. We are researching human development and adaptation. These subjects were collected from various human colonies for analysis." "Collected?" Taemin felt like he might throw up. "You mean stolen. You stole children from their families." "We prefer the term gathered for research," Veltar said. He seemed confused by their anger. "This is normal scientific procedure. We have done this with many species. The subjects are kept in perfect health while we study them." Kim's weapon was now in her hand. "Get away from these children. Right now." "Commander Kim, please understand," Veltar said, raising his hands. "These subjects are valuable research assets. We are studying how humans adapt to different conditions. We have made many interesting discoveries about your species' development patterns." "Assets?" Kim's voice was getting dangerous. "They're not assets. They're children. They have families. They have parents who are probably crying themselves to sleep every night wondering where their babies are." Veltar tilted his head in the way Saurians did when they were confused. "We do not understand your emotional response. These subjects were selected from colonies that could spare them. The research benefits all of our species." Taemin looked at the sleeping children and felt something break inside his chest. "How long have they been here?" Various amounts of time, Veltar replied. Some have been here for several months. Others for over a year. We have been very careful to keep them healthy. A year? Taman whispered. Some of these children have been asleep in these tanks for a year? More footsteps came from behind them. Crix, the Mantari security chief, entered the room. His bug-like eyes looked at the drawn weapons and the two angry humans. Is there a problem here? Crix asked. His voice sounded like clicking metal. The problem, Kim said, not taking her eyes off Veltar, is that you aliens think you can steal human children and use them like laboratory animals. We do not understand the difficulty, Crix said. This is standard research protocol. We have used similar methods on dozens of developing species. Developing species, Taman stepped forward. Humans aren't some primitive race you can experiment on. We're members of the Galactic Council. We have rights, of course, Veltar agreed. But these subjects were gathered before your species achieved full recognition. The research began under the old protocols. Kim looked at all the sleeping children and then back at the aliens. You're going to wake them up. All of them. Right now. That would destroy months of careful research, Crix protested. The subjects are in the middle of important adaptation studies. I don't care about your studies, Kim said. Wake them up or I will. Veltar and Crix looked at each other. In their alien way of thinking, they couldn't understand why the humans were so upset. To them, this was just science. But they could see that the humans were ready to fight. Very well, Veltar said slowly. But you must understand, Commander Kim, that interrupting the process may harm the subjects. Keeping them asleep in tanks is harming them, Taman said. These children need to go home. As Veltar moved toward the control panels, Taman looked at all the sleeping children and made a promise to himself. No matter what it took, he was going to make sure every one of these children saw their families again. The real fight was just beginning. Commander Hee-won Kim waited until the alien researchers left the room before she opened her secret communication device. She had to be very careful. If the aliens knew she was calling for help, they might hurt the children. Admiral Zhang, she whispered into the device. This is Kim. Emergency code 77 Alpha. The voice that came back was strong and clear. Admiral So-Young Zhang here. What's your situation, Commander? We found 32 human children being held as experimental subjects on this station. They've been here for months, some for over a year. The aliens took them from human colonies. There was silence for a long moment. Then Admiral Zhang's voice came back, cold as ice. Say that again, Commander. 32 children, Admiral. The youngest is about 5 years old. They've been kept in tanks while the aliens did experiments on them. Are the children safe right now? Kim looked around the room where Dr. Taman Park was sitting with the children. He was reading to them from a story tablet he had found. The children were sitting close to him, like baby birds gathering around their mother. For now, yes, but the aliens want to put them back in the tanks. They think we're overreacting. Overreacting? Admiral Zhang's voice got very quiet, which Kim knew meant she was getting very angry. To child experimentation? The aliens say this is normal scientific procedure for them. They don't understand why we're upset. I see. How long can you keep those children safe? I don't know. The aliens have more security than we do. If they decide to take the children back by force, that won't happen. Admiral Zhang said firmly. Help is coming. Keep those children safe until we arrive. How much help? Kim asked. All of it, Commander. All of it. After Kim ended the call, she went back to where Tai Min was sitting with the children. Taeyeon Choi, the 10-year-old girl who seemed to be a leader among the children, was helping a younger boy with his blanket. Dr. Park, Kim said quietly. Can I talk to you? They moved to a corner of the room where the children couldn't hear them. I called Admiral Zhang, Kim whispered. Help is coming. Good, Taman said. But I'm worried about what the aliens will do when they find out. What do you mean? Think about it. If human forces come here, the aliens might try to hide the evidence. They might... Taman couldn't finish the sentence. Kim understood. They might hurt the children to cover up what they did. We can't let that happen. Before Kim could answer, the door opened and several aliens came in. Veltar was there, along with Kulbeth and 3 other researchers Kim didn't know. But the alien in front was one she had never seen before. This Saurian was taller than Veltar, with darker green scales and gold markings that showed he was very important. Behind him walked 2 Mantari guards with weapons. I am Zethra, Senior Research Coordinator, the important Saurian said. I understand there has been a disruption to our work. Kim stepped forward. If by disruption you mean freeing imprisoned children, then yes. Zethra looked around the room at all the children. I see the subjects have been removed from their containment. This is highly irregular. These aren't subjects, Taemin said firmly. They're children who have been stolen from their families. They are research assets, Zethra replied. Their collection was authorized under Protocol 7 Alpha for the study of developing species. Humans aren't a developing species anymore, Kim said. We're members of the Galactic Council. These particular specimens were collected before your species achieved full membership, Zethra said. The research is legal under the old protocols. Ji-hoon Lee, the 8-year-old boy, stood up from where he was sitting. We're not specimens. We're people. We have names. Zethra looked down at the boy with his big yellow eyes. You're research subject 14. Your individual identity is not relevant to the study. Something happened to Ji-hoon's face that made him look much older than 8 years old. My name is Ji-hoon Lee. My father's name was Dongmin Lee. My mother's name was Youngsuk Lee. They died trying to protect me from your people. I remember their names even if you killed them. Zethra seemed surprised that the child could speak so clearly. The subject's memories were supposed to be suppressed. Memory suppression only works if you don't care enough to remember, Daun said, standing next to Ji-hoon. But we care. We remember everything. Impossible, Kolbeth clicked. The neural modifications should have prevented long-term memory formation. A girl who looked about 12 stepped forward. I remember the day you took me. I was walking home from school with my little brother. Your ships came down and soldiers grabbed us. They shot my brother when he tried to run. She looked directly at Kolbeth. I remember his face when he died. Do you want me to describe it? Kolbeth stepped back. The collection process was designed to minimize trauma. You call murdering families minimal trauma? Kim's voice was getting dangerous again. We only neutralize threats to the collection mission, Zethra said calmly. Adult humans who interfere must be stopped. Dr. Myung-hoon Bae came into the room carrying a medical bag. He was a human doctor who worked on the station, and Kim had called him to check on the children. Commander Kim, I came as soon as I got your message, Dr. Bae said. Then he saw all the children and stopped walking. Dear God, how many are there? 32, Taemin said. They need medical attention. The aliens have been experimenting on them. Dr. Bae knelt down next to the nearest child and started checking his pulse and breathing. What kind of experiments? Neural enhancement, immune system modification, atmospheric adaptation studies, Feltar said, like he was reading from a shopping list. Dr. Bae's face went white. You performed medical procedures on children without their consent? Without their parents' consent? Consent is not required for research subjects, Zethra said. Dr. Bae stood up slowly. Kim had never seen him look angry before, but now his hands were shaking with rage. They're not research subjects. They're babies. They're someone's babies. Your species' attachment to offspring is noted in our files, Zethra said, but it does not change the legal status of these specimens. If you call them specimens one more time, Kim said quietly, I'm going to show you what human attachment to offspring really looks like. The Mantari guards moved closer, raising their weapons. But before anyone could do anything else, Dawn spoke up. You want to know something funny? She said to Zethra. After everything you've done to us, after taking us from our families and hurting us and keeping us asleep for months, you know what we want most? What? Zethra asked. We want to go home, Dawn said simply. Not to hurt you. Not to get revenge. We just want to see our families again. Even the ones whose families are gone like Ji-hoon, they just want someone to love them. She looked around at all the alien researchers. You study us like we're puzzles to solve. But you don't understand the most important thing about humans. Which is? Feltar asked. We forgive, Dayun said. Even you. Even after everything you've done, if you let us go home, we would forgive you. The room was very quiet. The aliens looked at each other, confused. In all their studies of different species, they had never encountered anything like this. However, Kim said into the silence, if you don't let them go home, you're going to learn about another human trait. We protect our children, all of them, no matter what it costs. As if to prove her point, every human in the room moved closer to the children. Even Dr. Bae, who was usually very gentle, looked ready to fight. Zethra looked around the room and saw something that made him very uncomfortable. He saw humans who were ready to die to protect children that weren't even their own. He had never seen anything like it in any other species. "We will need to discuss this situation with higher authorities," he said finally. "You do that," Kim said. "But these children stay with us." After the aliens left, Taemin looked down at Daeun. "That was very brave what you said about forgiveness." Daeun smiled, but it was a sad smile. "It's true. We would forgive them. But I don't think they're going to let us go home, are they?" "Then we'll make them," Kim said firmly. Outside the station, space was empty and quiet, but not for much longer. The first child to wake up was a little boy named Ji-hoon Lee. His eyes opened slowly in the tank, and when he saw the glass around him, he started to scream. Dr. Taemin Park pressed his hands against the glass. "It's okay," he said, even though he knew the boy couldn't hear him through the liquid. "We're going to get you out." Commander Haiwan Kim was standing behind Veltar, watching every move the Saurian made at the control panel. "Hurry up," she said. "The process cannot be rushed," Veltar replied. "If we remove the subjects too quickly, they could be damaged." "They're already damaged," Kim said angrily. "Look at him. He's terrified." The tank started to drain, and soon Ji-hoon was lying on the bottom, coughing up the breathing liquid. When the glass door opened, Taemin reached in and lifted the boy out. Ji-hoon was so thin that he felt like he weighed nothing. "Hey there," Taemin said softly. "My name is Taemin. You're safe now." Ji-hoon looked around the room with wide, scared eyes. When he saw Veltar and Crix, he tried to hide behind Taemin. "Monsters," he whispered. "The monsters took me." Kim felt her heart break. She knelt down next to the boy. "We're humans, like you. We're here to help. What's your name?" "Ji-hoon," the boy said in a very small voice. "I want my mommy and daddy." Taemin wrapped a blanket around Ji-hoon. "We're going to help you find them. Can you tell us what you remember?" Ji-hoon started to cry. "The monsters came to our house. Daddy tried to fight them, but they had big guns. Mommy was screaming. Then everything went dark." Veltar made a sound that might have been confusion. Subject 14 was collected cleanly. "There should be no traumatic memories." "Collected?" Kim stood up fast, her face red with anger. "You killed his parents." "Only when necessary," Crix said, like he was talking about the weather. "Sometimes the adult humans try to interfere with collection. We must neutralize threats to the mission." Kim took a step toward Crix, but Taemin caught her arm. "The children need us calm," he whispered. More tanks were draining now. A girl who looked about 10 years old woke up in the next tank. When she saw Taemin holding Ji-hoon, she didn't panic like the boy had. Instead, she looked around the room very carefully. When her tank opened, she climbed out by herself. "Are you here to rescue us?" she asked. "Yes," Kim said. "What's your name?" "Daeun Choi," the girl replied. "I've been awake sometimes. When they do tests, I remember things." She looked at Veltar with hate in her eyes. "They took us from our school. We were playing outside, and then ships came down from the sky. More children were waking up now. Some were crying. Others were too scared to make any sound." Taemin and Kim moved from tank to tank, helping each child out and wrapping them in blankets. Dr. Kulbeth, another Mantari researcher, came into the room. When he saw all the children being awakened, his bug eyes got very wide. "What are you doing?" He clicked at Veltar. "This will ruin everything." Months of careful study destroyed. "The humans insisted," Veltar said. "The humans have no authority here," Kulbeth said. "This is our research station. These subjects belong to us." Kim turned around fast. "What did you just say?" "These subjects are property of the research project," Kulbeth repeated. "We have invested significant resources in their collection and maintenance." Something dangerous happened to Kim's face. "They're not subjects. They're not property. They're children." "We do not understand your emotional attachment," Kulbeth said. "These are simply specimens from your species. Why do you react as if they have individual importance?" Daeun spoke up from where she was comforting a younger child. "Because we do have individual importance. Every person matters. Don't you care about your own children?" Kulbeth tilted his head. "Mantari young are raised in group nurseries until they are old enough to contribute to society. Individual attachment is inefficient." "That's horrible," Ji-hoon said, peeking out from behind Taemin. "It is practical," Crix said. "Emotional attachment makes beings weak. Your species' obsession with individual young is an evolutionary disadvantage." Taemin looked around at all the children. There were 32 of them, ranging from about 5 years old to 13. All of them were thin and pale. Many had small scars where the aliens had put wires and devices into their bodies. "What did you do to them?" he asked quietly. "Various enhancement studies," Veltar said. "We improved their immune systems, enhanced their neural pathways, tested their adaptation to different atmospheric conditions." "You experimented on them," Kim said. "We improved them," Kulbeth corrected. "These subjects are now superior to normal humans in several ways." Daewon stood up. Even though she was just a child, she looked very brave. "We didn't ask to be improved. We asked to go home." "Home is an illogical attachment," Kulbeth said. "You have been given superior abilities. You should be grateful." "Grateful?" A boy who looked about 12 years old spoke from across the room. "You stole us from our families. You put things in our heads. You keep us asleep in tanks, and you want us to be grateful?" More Saurian and Mantari researchers were coming into the room now. They all looked upset that their experiment was being interrupted. "This is highly irregular," one of the Saurians said. "These subjects represent years of work. These children represent 32 families who are missing their babies," Tamian said loudly. 32 sets of parents who don't know if their children are alive or dead. "Attachment to offspring is a primitive response," another Mantari said. "Advanced species move beyond such emotional limitations." Taeyun walked over to that Mantari and looked up at him. "If caring about each other is primitive, then I'm glad we're primitive. At least we're not monsters." The Mantari stepped back, confused. "We are not monsters. We are scientists." "You hurt children," Ji-hoon said in his small voice. "That makes you monsters." Kim looked around the room at all the alien researchers. "How many of you have children of your own?" "Mantari do not form individual bonds with offspring," Kulbeth said. "It is inefficient." "Saurians raise young communally," Veltar added. "Individual parents do not maintain extended contact with their offspring." "Then you can't understand," Taemin said. "You can't understand what you've done." A little girl who couldn't have been more than 6 years old walked up to Veltar. She had been very quiet since waking up, but now she looked up at the tall alien. "I had a puppy named Spot," she said. "Do you know where Spot is?" Veltar looked down at her. Personal possessions were not collected with the subjects. The little girl started to cry. "Spot is probably hungry. He gets scared when I'm not there." "Who's feeding him?" For the first time since they had found the children, Veltar looked uncomfortable. We did not consider animal companions." "You didn't consider anything except your stupid experiments," Kim said. "You took these children away from everything they loved, and you don't even understand why that's wrong." More children were gathering around Taemin and Kim now. They seemed to understand that these two humans were safe. "Can we really go home?" Daeun asked. "Yes," Taemin promised. "I don't know how yet, but we're going to get all of you home." "What if home is gone?" Ji-hoon asked quietly. "What if the monsters destroyed everything?" Kim knelt down to look him in the eyes. "Then we'll find you a new home with people who will love you. No matter what, you'll never be alone again." The alien researchers looked at each other with confusion. They could see that the humans cared about these children, but they couldn't understand why. In their minds, this was just science. But as they watched the children trust Taemin and Kim, and as they saw the fear and hope in young faces, some of them began to feel something they had never felt before. They began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. 3 days later, the largest gathering of alien leaders in galactic history took place on Research Station Omega-7. Representatives from hundreds of species came to witness what many were calling the human child incident, but the most important visitor was Elder Wise Claw Thrak, the oldest and most respected philosopher in the galaxy. He was so old that some species considered him a legend. When he spoke, everyone listened. Elder Thrak was different from the other aliens. He moved slowly and carefully, and his eyes seemed to hold the wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes. When he arrived at the station, he asked to see the children immediately. "I must understand what has caused such concern," he said in his ancient voice. Council Prime Vorgash led Elder Thrak to the room where the children were staying. By now, the human adults had created a safe space that felt almost like home. There were soft chairs, books to read, games to play, and pictures drawn by the children hanging on the walls. When Elder Thrak entered the room, he saw something that made him stop walking. Diane Choi was sitting with 3 younger children, helping them with a puzzle. Ji-hoon Lee was reading a book to Nario, who was curled up next to him like a little sister. Other children were playing quiet games or drawing pictures, but what caught Elder Thrack's attention was how peaceful they looked. These were children who had been stolen from their families, experimented on for months and kept in tanks like laboratory animals. Yet they were taking care of each other with gentle kindness. "These are the research subjects?" Elder Thrack asked quietly. "These are the human children," Dr. Taman Park corrected gently. Elder Thrack walked slowly through the room, observing everything. He watched Nari share her crayons with a boy who didn't have any. He saw Ji-hoon comfort a girl who was missing her parents. He observed Dayin organizing a game so that everyone could play together. "How long have they been awake?" Elder Thrack asked. 4 days, Commander Kim replied. "And they show no aggression toward their captors?" "None," Dr. Unjihan said. "In fact, yesterday Nari asked if Kevlon could come visit her. She wanted to show him a picture she drew." Elder Thrack turned to look at Vorgash with ancient eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. "You have observed human behavior for several days now," Elder Thrack said. "What have you learned?" Vorgash was quiet for a moment. "I have learned that humans are not like any species we have previously encountered." "In what way?" "Their bonds with their young transcend biological necessity," Vorgash explained. "They do not simply care for children because it ensures species survival. They care because individual children matter to them, and the children care for each other in the same way. They share resources, comfort those who are distressed, and protect the weakest among them. This behavior appears to be instinctive." Elder Thrack nodded slowly. "Continue." "The human adults who came to rescue these children are not their biological parents," Vorgash continued. "Yet they risk their lives and deploy military resources to save them. This suggests that human protective instincts extend beyond individual offspring to encompass all human young." "And what else have you observed?" Vorgash looked around the room at the children. "They forgive," he said quietly. "Despite everything that was done to them, they show no desire for revenge. The youngest one actually tries to comfort the scientists who experimented on her." Elder Thrack walked over to where Nari was drawing a picture. "Young one," he said gently, "may I see your artwork?" Nari looked up at the ancient alien with no fear in her eyes. "It's a picture of my family," she said, holding up the drawing. "That's my mommy and daddy, and that's me, and that's our dog Spot." "It is very beautiful," Elder Thrack said. "Do you miss them?" "Every day," Nari said simply. "But Dr. Park says they're looking for me, and when I go home we'll all be together again." "And if something happened to your family, what would you do?" Nari thought about this seriously. "I would be very sad," she said. "But I think other people would take care of me. Humans take care of children, even if they're not their own children." Elder Thrack knelt down to Nari's level. "How do you know this?" "Because look around," Nari said, pointing to all the human adults in the room. "None of these people are my parents, but they're all taking care of me anyway. That's just what humans do." Elder Thrack stood up slowly and walked back to where the other alien leaders were standing. His ancient face was troubled. "Council Prime Vorgash," he said in a voice that carried throughout the room. "You have told me that these children were collected as research subjects under standard protocols." "That is correct, Elder," Vorgash replied. "And these standard protocols have been used on how many species?" "Hundreds," Vorgash said. "It is normal procedure for studying developing civilizations." Elder Thrack was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke words that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "You caged human children?" His voice was filled with horror. "My God, what have you done?" The room fell completely silent. Every alien leader present turned to stare at Elder Thrack. "Elder?" Vorgash asked uncertainly. "In all my centuries of life, observing countless species across the galaxy, I have never encountered beings like these human children," Elder Thrack said, his voice growing stronger. "Do you understand what you have discovered?" "We have discovered that humans have strong parental bonds," Veltar said. "No," Elder Thrack said firmly. "You have discovered a species that loves unconditionally. A species that forgives almost infinitely. A species that will risk everything to protect the innocent." He walked over to where Ji-hoon was sitting. "This child's parents were killed during his capture, yet he shows no hatred toward your people. This is not normal behavior for any species we know." Then he moved to Da-un. "This child has spent months in captivity, yet she organizes activities to help younger children feel safe. She has become a leader through compassion, not dominance. Finally, he stopped in front of Nari. And this little one offers friendship to her captors. She draws pictures of the family that was taken from her, not pictures of revenge. Elder Thrak turned back to the alien leaders. You treated them as specimens, but they responded with grace. You took them from their families, but they created new families among themselves. You hurt them, but they chose healing over hatred. Jae-sung Ko, a human man with tears streaming down his face, stepped forward from the group of human parents who had been allowed to come to the station. Is one of these children mine? He asked quietly. Dr. Park checked his list. Are you looking for Ko Min-jun? Yes, Jae-sung whispered. He's 8 years old. He was taken 6 months ago. A boy across the room looked up at the sound of his name. When he saw Jae-sung, he dropped his toy and ran across the room. Daddy, Min-jun cried, jumping into his father's arms. Every person in the room, alien and human alike, watched as Jae-sung held his son and cried. The boy was thin and pale from his months in captivity, but he was alive. I looked for you every day, Jae-sung sobbed. Every single day. I knew you would come, Min-jun said. I told the other kids that our parents would never give up on us. Other human parents were arriving now, and the room filled with the sounds of families reuniting. But not all the children had families to return to. Some, like Ji-hoon, had lost their parents during capture. In-young Shin, a human teacher who had volunteered to help with the children's recovery, knelt down next to Ji-hoon. Hey there, she said gently. I know your mom and dad can't come get you, but I want you to know something. My husband and I have been hoping to have a child for a long time. If you want, you could come live with us. We would love you just as much as your parents did. Ji-hoon looked at her with hope in his eyes. Really? You would want me even though I'm not really your son? Oh, sweetie, In-young said, hugging him. You would be really our son. That's how human families work. Love makes you family, not just blood. Elder Thrak watched all of this happening and turned to address the entire gathering of alien leaders. Today we have learned something that will change our understanding of life in the galaxy, he announced. We have learned that there is a species that embodies the highest ideals we have ever encountered. They protect all children, not just their own. They forgive injuries that would cause other species to seek war. They create families through love rather than just biology. He paused and looked around the room, and we nearly destroyed them through our ignorance. What do you recommend, Elder? Forgash asked. I recommend that we establish the human protection protocols immediately, Elder Thrak said. No human child will ever again be subjected to research without the explicit consent of both the child and their guardians. Furthermore, I recommend that we ask humans to teach us what they know about caring for the young. Da-eun, who had been listening to all of this, walked over to Elder Thrak. You want to learn how to take care of children? She asked. Yes, young one. We want to learn. It's not hard, Da-eun said with a smile. You just have to remember that every child is special and important. You have to keep them safe, and you have to help them grow up to be good people, and you have to love them, even when they make mistakes. Da-eun looked around the room at all the alien leaders, then at her fellow human children who were reuniting with their families or meeting new ones. Dr. Eun Ji-han arrived on the next human transport ship. She was a specialist in helping children who had been through terrible experiences, and Commander Kim had specifically requested her. Where are they? Dr. Han asked as soon as she stepped off the transport. This way, Kim said, leading her through the station corridors. But I should warn you, what you're about to see is going to make you angry. I'm already angry, Dr. Han replied. 32 children stolen from their families? I've been angry since I got the call. When they reached the room where the children were being kept safe, Dr. Han stopped in the doorway. She had seen many hurt children in her work, but this was different. These children had a look in their eyes that she had never seen before. They look older than they should, she said quietly. They've been through things no child should go through, Dr. Taemin Park said, but they're stronger than anyone expected. Dr. Han knelt down next to the youngest child, a little girl named Nari-o, who was only 6 years old. Hi there, sweetie. My name is Yoonji. I'm here to help you feel better. Nari looked up at her with big, serious eyes. Are you a doctor like Dr. Park? I'm a different kind of doctor, Dr. Han explained. I help children who have been scared or hurt. I help them feel safe again. The monster doctors hurt us, Nari said, but they said it was to make us better. I know, honey, but you don't need to be made better. You're perfect just the way you are. Nari smiled for the first time since waking up. It was a small smile, but it was real. Across the room, something interesting was happening. Kevlon, a young Saurian scientist who had been watching the humans work with the children, was starting to look upset. Daun Choi noticed him first. The 10-year-old girl had been helping the younger children, but now she saw that the alien researcher looked sad. "Are you okay?" Daun asked Kevlon. Kevlon was surprised that one of the children was talking to him. I am functional," he said in the formal way that Saurians spoke. "You don't look functional," Daun said. "You look sad." "Saurians do not experience sadness as humans do," Kevlon replied, but his voice was uncertain. Daun walked closer to him. "What's wrong?" Kevlon looked down at this small human who had been kept in a tank for months, who had been experimented on and hurt by his people. And this child was asking if he was okay. "I helped design the neural modification procedures," he said quietly. "I thought we were helping your species evolve faster. I did not understand that we were causing harm." "Did you know we were scared?" Dayan asked. "The monitoring equipment showed elevated stress responses," Kevlon said, "but we believed this was normal adaptation behavior." "We weren't adapting," Daun said. "We were terrified." Kevlon was quiet for a long moment. "I am beginning to understand that we made an error." Other aliens in the room were watching this conversation. They had never seen one of their colleagues talk to a research subject as if it were an equal. Nari, the 6-year-old, walked over to where Daun was talking to Kevlon. She looked up at the tall Saurian with his green scales and yellow eyes. "You look sad too," she said to Kevlon. "I do not understand sadness the way humans do," Kevlon repeated. "That's okay," Nari said. "I can teach you." Then she did something that shocked everyone in the room. She reached out and gently touched Kevlon's scaled hand. "When I'm sad, it helps when someone is kind to me," Nari said. "Are you sad because you hurt us?" Kevlon stared down at the tiny human hand touching his. In all his years as a scientist, no research subject had ever tried to comfort him. "Yes," he whispered. "I believe I am sad because we hurt you." "It's okay," Nari said simply. "If you're sorry, then I forgive you." The room went completely silent. Every alien and human was staring at this 6-year-old child who was offering forgiveness to one of her captors. Council Prime Vorgash, who had been watching from across the room, walked over slowly. "Young one," he said to Nari, "this being participated in your capture and imprisonment. Do you understand this?" "Yes," Nari said, still holding Kevlon's hand. "But he feels bad about it now, and he's learning that it was wrong." "How can you forgive so easily?" Vorgash asked. Nari looked up at the most powerful alien in the galaxy with her innocent 6-year-old eyes. "Because holding on to angry feelings makes me feel bad inside. And because maybe if I'm nice to him, he'll be nicer to other children." Vorgash knelt down to Nari's level. For the first time in his long life, he was looking directly into the eyes of a human child. "You would trust him again?" he asked. "I would give him a chance to do better," Nari said. "Isn't that what grown-ups are supposed to do? Help each other do better?" Dr. Han, who had been watching this conversation, felt tears in her eyes. She had worked with traumatized children for 20 years, but she had never seen anything like this. "Nari," she said gently, "you are a very special little girl." "All children are special," Nari replied. "That's what my mommy always said." The mention of her mother made Nari's face sad for a moment. But then she looked back at Kevlon and smiled again. "Will you help us go home?" she asked him. Kevlon looked around the room at all the other children, then at the human adults who had been protecting them, then back at Nari. "Yes," he said firmly. "I will help you go home." Other aliens in the room began to shift uncomfortably. They had never seen one of their own promise to help research subjects. But Veltar stepped forward. "Kevlon speaks truth," he said slowly. "Perhaps we have made an error in our understanding." "What kind of error?" Dr. Park asked. "We believed humans were like other species we had studied," Veltar explained. "We thought individual attachment was a weakness to be overcome. We did not understand that it was actually your greatest strength." Ji-Hoon Lee, the 8-year-old boy whose parents had been killed during his capture, walked over to Veltar. "You killed my parents," he said quietly. Veltar's scales darkened with shame. "Yes. My people killed your parents when they tried to protect you. They died because they loved me." Ji-hoon said. Yes, Veltar agreed. And now other humans are risking their lives to save all of us. Even though we're not their children? Yes, Veltar said again. Ji-hoon looked up at the tall Saurian. Do you understand now why humans are different? Vorgash was listening to this conversation very carefully. He had ruled over many species for hundreds of years, but he was starting to realize that humans were unlike anything he had encountered before. Show me, he said to Dr. Park. Show me how humans care for their young. Dr. Park looked around the room at all the children. It's bedtime for them on Earth time, he said. Would you like to watch? Vorgash nodded. What happened next amazed all the aliens in the room. The human adults began what they called bedtime routine. They helped the children wash and change into clean clothes. They made sure each child had a soft blanket. And then Dr. Park sat down with a book and began to read a story. The children gathered around him, some sitting on the floor, others curled up against the human adults. Even the oldest children, who were 12 and 13, listened to the story. But what shocked the aliens most was how the children took care of each other. Daeun made sure the younger ones were comfortable. Ji-hoon shared his blanket with a little boy who was cold. Nari sang a soft song to a girl who was having trouble sleeping. They protect each other, Vorgash whispered to himself. Always, Kim said. Human children learn to care for each other by watching how adults care for them. After the story, the human adults moved through the room, saying goodnight to each child individually. They tucked in blankets, they answered worried questions, and they promised that they would keep the children safe while they slept. When Nari saw Dr. Han approaching, she sat up in her makeshift bed. Dr. Han, she said softly. Yes, sweetie. When I go home, will someone read me stories like Dr. Park does? Yes, Dr. Han promised. Someone will read you stories every night. And will they keep me safe from monsters? Yes, Dr. Han said firmly. They will keep you safe. Nari smiled and lay back down. Good. Then I'm not scared anymore. As the children settled down to sleep, Vorgash walked over to where Dr. Park was cleaning up the storybooks. This happens every night in human homes? He asked quietly. Every night, Dr. Park confirmed. Human children need to feel safe and loved before they can sleep. And human adults provide this willingly. Of course, Dr. Park said, confused by the question. They're children. Taking care of them is the most important thing we do. Vorgash looked around the room at all the sleeping children, then at the human adults who were keeping watch to make sure they were safe. For the first time in his long life, the most powerful alien in the galaxy began to understand what humans called love. The first sign that help had arrived was when all the lights on Research Station Omega-7 started flashing red. Emergency alarms began ringing throughout the station. Commander Haiwan Kim smiled when she heard the alarms. She knew exactly what they meant. What is happening? Veltar asked, his green scales turning pale with worry. That, Kim said, is the sound of the human fleet arriving. Through the large windows of the station they could see lights appearing in space. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Human warships were dropping out of hyperspace all around the station. The children pressed their faces against the windows, watching the ships appear. Ji-hoon Lee grabbed Dr. Taemin Park's hand. Are those here for us? The 8-year-old boy asked. Yes, Taemin said softly. Those are here for you. Daeun Choi, who always seemed older than her 10 years, looked out at the fleet with tears in her eyes. I didn't know humans had so many ships. We don't usually need them all in one place, Kim said. But when someone hurts our children, we bring everything we have. Zethra came running into the room with several other aliens behind him. His yellow eyes were wide with panic. Commander Kim, what is the meaning of this military action? It's not military action, Kim replied calmly. It's a rescue mission. This is a violation of the station treaty, Quilbeth clicked angrily. Human forces cannot enter this system without permission from all 3 species. Actually, a new voice said from the doorway. They can. Everyone turned to see a human woman in a diplomatic uniform entering the room. She was older than Kim, with gray hair and eyes that looked like they had seen many difficult things. I am Min Seo-young, human diplomatic representative, the woman said, and under Article 15 of the Galactic Protection Protocols, any species has the right to use necessary force to recover their citizens who are being held against their will. These are not citizens, Zethra protested. These are research subjects collected under legal protocols. These are human children who were kidnapped from their families, Jung replied. And now they're going home. The communication system crackled to life. This is Admiral So Young Jang of the human fleet to all alien personnel on Research Station Omega-7. You have 30 minutes to prepare the human children for transport. Any attempt to harm them will be considered an act of war. Admiral Jang's voice was calm and professional, but there was something in it that made all the aliens in the room step backward. You cannot threaten us, Kulbeth said, but his voice was shaking. We have rights under the Research Accords. The Research Accords don't cover child experimentation, Jung said firmly. What you've done here is a crime under galactic law. We followed proper procedures, Veltar insisted. Proper procedures? Jung walked over to where the children were standing. You stole children from their families. You performed medical experiments on them without consent. You kept them unconscious in tanks for months. She looked back at Veltar. Which part of that sounds proper to you? Before Veltar could answer, another human entered the room. This one was wearing military armor and had the look of someone who had fought in many battles. Captain Donghyun Yoon, Human Special Forces, the man announced. I'm here to secure the children. Behind Captain Yoon came 6 more human soldiers, all heavily armed. But when they saw the children, their expressions softened. Hey there, kids, Captain Yoon said gently. We're here to take you somewhere safe. One of the younger children, a girl who couldn't have been more than 6, walked up to Captain Yoon. Are you really here to save us? Yes, sweetheart, Captain Yoon said, kneeling down to her level. We're here to take you home. I don't remember where home is, the little girl said sadly. That's okay, Captain Yoon said softly. We'll help you remember, or we'll find you a new home with people who will love you. Zethra was talking quickly into his communication device in the Saurian language. After a few minutes, he looked up with an expression of confusion. The Council Prime Vorgash is coming, he announced. Who's that? Kim asked. The highest authority in our government, Veltar explained. He rules over both the Saurian Empire and our alliance with the Mantari. Jung looked concerned. If he's coming here personally, this situation is bigger than we thought. While they waited, Dr. Myung-Hoon Bae continued examining the children. What he found made him very angry. Commander Kim, Dr. Bae said quietly, you need to see this. He showed her his scanner readings. These children have been given neural implants. Their brain chemistry has been altered. Some have had their immune systems completely redesigned. What does that mean? Kim asked. It means they've been changed at a genetic level, Dr. Bae said. Some of these modifications might be permanent. Kim felt sick. Will they be okay? I don't know, Dr. Bae said honestly. I've never seen anything like this. We'll need months of study just to understand what was done to them. Captain Yoon overheard their conversation. Doctor, can these children travel safely? Yes, they can travel, Dr. Bae said. But they'll need special medical care. And they'll need a lot of emotional support. What they've been through. He shook his head. They'll get the best care we can give them, Captain Yoon promised. An hour later, a ship arrived that was bigger than any of the human warships. It was silver and gold, with strange curves that hurt to look at for too long. This was a ship built by the most advanced species in the galaxy. Council Prime Vorgash entered the room surrounded by guards from several different alien species. He was tall even for a Saurian, with deep blue scales and gold markings that showed his high rank. But what was most striking about him were his eyes. They were ancient and intelligent, and they seemed to see everything. I have come to understand this situation, Vorgash said in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. Jung stepped forward. Your Excellency, we appreciate your personal attention to this matter. Vorgash looked around the room, his eyes stopping on each of the children. These are the subjects of the controversy? These are the victims of the crime, Jung corrected. Crime is a strong word, Vorgash said slowly. What has been done here follows established research protocols for studying developing species. Humans are not a developing species, Jung said firmly. No, Vorgash agreed. But these individuals were collected when your species was still classified as developing. The research began legally. Dayun stepped out from behind Dr. Park. Even though she was just 10 years old, she looked directly at the most powerful alien in the galaxy. Your Excellency, she said in her clear, young voice, can I ask you a question? Vorgash seemed surprised that a child was speaking to him, but he nodded. Do Do you have children? Dayun asked. Saurians lay eggs in group nests, Vorgash replied. Individual parentage is not tracked. But were you ever small? Dayun continued. Were you ever young and scared and wanting someone to take care of you? Vorgash was quiet for a long moment. All beings begin small, he said finally. Then you know what it feels like to need protection, Dayun said. That's all we wanted. To be safe with people who cared about us. Instead you kept us in tanks and did experiments on us. She looked around at all the other children. Some of us don't have families to go back to because your people killed them. But we still want to live. We still want to be happy. We still want someone to love us. Vorgash stared at the little girl for a long time. You speak with great courage for one so small. She speaks with great courage because humans protect their children, Jung said. We teach them to be brave because we promise to keep them safe. And when you fail to keep that promise? Vorgash asked. Kim stepped forward. Then we move heaven and earth to fix our failure. Every ship in that fleet out there represents thousands of humans who dropped everything they were doing to come rescue 32 children they've never met. Vorgash looked out the window at the human fleet. This is unusual. Most species would negotiate for the return of their young. They would not bring military force. Most species, Jung said quietly, don't love their children the way humans do. For the first time since entering the room, Vorgash looked uncertain. He had ruled over dozens of species for hundreds of years, but he had never encountered anything like this. I must consider this situation more carefully, he said finally. There are factors I had not previously understood.